Why do we do this?
Yeah, why do you dress up with funny clothes?
Well, it keeps us from having to stay home and do the chores, for one thing.
It's home, somebody else done them?
It's an adventure. Actually, the truthful answer is that we really enjoy history, and we enjoy reliving and trying to better understand what our ancestors went through before, during, and after the war. Not just the soldiers, but the civilians, because our wives and kids participate. And we feel like that this younger generation needs to know something about that, and it's better than trying to learn it out of books. This is real life history instead of textbook history.
So what's the value of learning this history?
If you don't learn it, you repeat it. And that can be deadly.
Oh my! You're back?
What's it called again? What's this game?
And the darkest bit just keep the sun.
I bet we could do it.
Gunners, take implements. Gunners, service the peace. Advance around. Advance. Service the peace.
I thought Linda was going to Mother and Dad's.
What?
She still hadn't left. I mean, I could have walked over their house and been there by now.
Is that our last one? That's it. Got a little secure beach. I think that's all today. I think that's all.
I'd like people to watch it and learn from it, to realize what their ancestors did and suffered to create the country we have now, good or bad. That it wasn't free. None of it came free. That lots of people suffered and lots of people died to buy what we have, the freedoms we have today, including in the Civil War.
Lots of people need to realize just, how much they need to honor these men, that fought back then. You know, we lots of times take it for granted, but the Northern and Southern soldiers, they just sacrificed everything that they live for, you know, for their country. And lots of people don't ever think about it, and they just take it for granted. And people need to start understanding the sacrifice these men made, men and women.
What's your age?
15, 16.
This is serious. People were really dying. It was not just get out there and shoot at each other and go home. It was very bloody and very bad, and I don't think a lot of people I've talked to just haven't grasped that. And
What's your age?
I'm 16.
The reason I am here today is that it is all Erasmus Sherman's fault. He is the first enlistee in the Confederate side from Fayetteville, and he's my husband's great-grandfather. And we have come to donate his sword to the Historical Society. But when Dee Dee found out that I'm a member of the Costumers Guild West, she asked me to speak to you all about what I've been learning myself about period clothing. And that is exactly what I want to impress upon you now. We are not wearing costumes. If you're dressed like Darth Vader, you're wearing a costume. If you look like Princess Leia, you're wearing a costume. But we are wearing period dress. That means we strive to be as authentic as possible, being true to the period with what we have available to us today. And that's no small challenge because things are very, very different. However, the Civil War here was fought during the Victorian times, and those were named for Queen Victoria in England. And she reigned from, I think, 1837 to 1901, so that's a very broad spectrum of time and a very broad spectrum of fashion. But she was the one who dictated in England and on the continent some of the latest styles, which is why I am wearing plaid, because plaid was one of Queen Victoria's favorites. Her husband, Prince Albert, was from Scotland, and she liked to emulate the Scottish traditions and use plaid when she could. I'm dressed in a traveling suit. I see some of you ladies are wearing day dresses, and you are wearing a ball gown neckline. And there are various and different styles. Now, Queen Victoria, I'm going to talk for a minute about Victoria's Secret. And I don't mean the store. To me, Victoria's Secret is she never told anybody she was wearing 9 pounds of underwear. Now, I don't know if all of you are wearing period underwear, but in my Costumers Guild, we strive for authenticity. So I'm going to show you some of what I am wearing and what I have made. I am wearing bloomers. Now, I have patterns and resources for all of you. Ladies would wear bloomers. Now, I'm not going to show you this, but my bloomers are split in the back. I don't know if you have anybody who has a guess why. It's not a delicate subject, but we can talk about it. It's when you have to go to the necessary, as they would call it in colonial times. So that is what ladies would wear. And they would have also under it a chemise. That's more like an undershirt. I know you guys do not wear a lot of period underwear, but some of you have wondered if there's something you can wear that you can put over your tank top. So I have a resource. All of you are going to get one of these books. It's got more resources and more information about period attire than is what commonly is available from McCall Simplicity Books. My gosh, the war is starting again. So let's go through some of this. Somebody has asked me, what happens when one of your hoops break? Well, that does happen. And I have a resource for you guys. If you have parents or you'd like to replace part of your hoop, we can help you with that. But some of you, this is something that some of us wear. This is called a camel sole. What Butterick calls it, we call it a corset cover. It's wonderful, and it gives you a period look over your tank tops. So some of you wear bicycle shorts and tank tops underneath those. Thank you so much. This is from a company called Past Patterns. They have a lot of neat things that'll give you more choices than some of the attire you're wearing now. I understand some of you are looking to make a ball gown. Is that true? Somebody wants to make a ball gown? If you do, there are many choices. What I'm also wearing, there's another company called Laughing Moon Patterns. As you can see, I am not used to wearing these big dresses yet. This is my very first hoop skirt. I'm usually wearing things from the later Victorian era, and I would be wearing the bustle, which is why I'm used to having things out back here instead of in front of me. That came later in the 1870s after the hoop skirt, but it was very liberating for ladies. Hoop skirts were an innovation. Before that, they had to wear not one petticoat, not two petticoats, but maybe as many as 5 or 6 to make their skirt stand out. Exactly. One petticoat's heavy, isn't it? Can we imagine 5 or 6? And what would happen if you fell down? What would happen if you fell in the water? This was petticoats and hoops were very, very liberating for ladies at the time. So we are going to talk about those. And you get some information about that. I see you are wearing a day dress. Did you make it?
No, ma'am, I did not.
And a day dress, and a day dress. There's some and a day dress, and a blouse. It's good to see the blouse. Blouses came in specifically during the Civil War, where ladies were actually making do and doing the best they can. Down in the South here, and you had some of the choices were limited because there was the blockade happening. Didn't have a lot of manufacturing down here. So they made do with what they had, and the Victorians were very, very thrifty. They would cut and recut a dress. So if you were done with your dress, and you had a younger sister, some of that dress might become part of her next top or her dress. They were very, very thrifty. Yes, fabric was extremely expensive. They were very careful how they used it, and they recycled it. They didn't call it that, they called it making it over. Now, I'm wearing a traveling outfit. I don't have my hair dressed like some of you do. I'm wearing a bonnet. Because if I was coming in on a stagecoach, I would have something much more practical than an evening gown or even a day dress. Something that would be a little more durable. Because as nice as we have, thank you so much, we have a lovely brick walkway here, but in those times, what did we have? Did we have paved streets? We had mud. And that is why we would wear, during the day dresses could reach the ground. But if you were wearing a traveling suit, you would construct it a little bit off the ground so that when you came through, you wouldn't necessarily drag your skirts through the mud. Also, to be authentic, I've done a facing here. What they would do in those times, they would take muslin and they would make something all the way around much higher, because when it got dirty, they didn't have dry cleaners, did they? And there were only 4 fabrics. They didn't have polyester, they didn't have rayon, they didn't have nylon. They had cotton, wool, linen, or silk. So they would line the bottoms of their skirts with cotton, and then when that got dirty, they'd rip it out and put new stuff in, because they were going to wear these dresses as long as they could possibly fit into them. So, this is what is called a traveling suit, and I'm wearing what's called a Garibaldi blouse with the full sleeves and the drop shoulders. This is also very period. This comes from a company called Truly Victorian, and that's another resource you can use when you're making your period dress. And I have all those patterns for you in your packet. There's a lot of choices you have, and when you go to look for fabric, what am I going to use? Well, we're not going to be making too many hot pink satin ball gowns now, are we? We're going to be using something that we can supposedly emulate the time as close as possible. I'd like to invite you to all look at this book. This was made by a friend of mine, and it has examples of what we can obtain nowadays for fabrics that look a lot like what they had then. It's called Textiles for Early Victorian Clothing, and that's the time we're working with. So you can say, oh, and when you read literature and say, oh, what kind of fabric are they talking about? This might explain it. So you can have, it will translate then into now for you. Let's talk about hair and trimmings. any questions about what you're talking about? Some of you have your hair done authentically. I like the way your hair, who has your hair braided? I think it's you have your hair braided. That looks very, very authentic. We have information here about hairstyles. We have photocopied for you information about hairstyles, how people wore their hair. And sometimes young ladies wore their hair, if they could grow it, just almost like the adults, just pulling it back. And the older you became, the more you would emulate the adults. And you see the bonnet that she is wearing. When a woman married, that was when she began wearing a bonnet indoors. Excuse me, very dry out there. So I have information for you on all that. What about hats? You see I'm wearing a bonnet. A bonnet would be worn when you're traveling. You'd be wearing a hat indoors. You'd be wearing like a camp hat and a snood. You would always have your hair dressed indoors. It was sometimes only your husband would see you totally without your hair fixed. Nobody that you ever knew, except maybe your mama, would see you with your hair down and have it always fixed, because that was a privilege reserved. I have also information about your Civil War skirts for you. Now, you have what's called a bodice and a skirt. I have a skirt and a blouse. At that time, they had different ways of attaching the waistbands. So it's called gathering, is what we've done here, down at the bottom for your ruffle. But these are called box pleats, which is very, very period. And then there's cartridge pleating. There's some examples there about how you would do that. And if you have any questions about how you would do that, what looks right, if you're interested in a historical interpretation or what looks right, there's some resources for you. And then what kind of questions you have doing your heritage school. Is anybody brand new, or is anybody been in and what brand new? Well, I think you look super, and I think you look very authentic. The fabric that you're wearing is a calico or a plaid. It's exactly what little girls would have worn, or a homespun. I think, and yours is very, very nice. Did you make your dress yourself? Oh, you didn't. Okay. Well, are you intending to make a dress yourself?
I'm thinking about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Because the only way that we remember how things used to be is by getting in and doing it ourselves. That's what the Costumers Guild and the people who are into costuming, it's their tradition, is each one teach one. Because the way things were, and why we're all here today, is to not forget what history has to teach us. It may have been the hard way, believe me. Sewing your clothes by hand is the hard way. But they did have sewing machines in that time. They didn't have electronic sewing machines, but they had sewing machines. It was a matter of pride to use those sewing machines at that time. So they could make more things, they could make more ruffles. I think you'll do just fine when you start out. Now, don't be afraid. The thing I want to tell you about is don't have FOF, fear of fabric. I used to have that. I will tell you that 3 years ago, I didn't sew. I made my entire outfit. I made my underwear with the exception of the hoop. Now, if anybody can do that in 3 years, and I hadn't sewn in 20 years, you guys can do that. Believe me. Now, I understand that you're looking to make an outfit for your little girl. Yes. In the Simplicity book, to the Common Resources, they've come out with a new group of patterns by Martha McCain, the fashion historian. If you're looking to do something that is commercially available, those patterns are very, very good. Some of the other ones, in fact, the one I adapted this costume from, they've taken what we call license or liberties with it, and the darting and the seaming is not authentic, not what they would have done then with the techniques that would have been available to them. So what my costume teacher did, we made a mock-up, and then while I practically screamed, she cut the back up. I said, this isn't authentic. There was a dart here. She cut it and recut it for me, and now it fits like it would have fit then. I almost died when she took her scissors to my practice jacket. But you know what? It's authentic, and it works, and it looks very, very good. I'm going to give each of you one of these packages. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you would take one and pass those down. There is a freebie pattern in there for each of you. Mom's reading boats. All your girls are getting a complimentary pattern that my teacher has developed. I will tell you there is absolutely no need to spend $15 to buy that Simplicity pattern, which is basically rectangles put together with a ruffle around the bottom. Save yourself the money. Use a pattern like this. You can also rectangles together. You can make yourself a petticoat. Some of the patterns are exorbitantly expensive, and I wanted you to have that to take home with you. In the truly Victorian pattern, this is a company of two ladies I know out in California. Their job and their life's work is to reinterpret Victorian patterns, which is how they make their hoodies. They take apart historical garments, look at how they were made, they recreate patterns, they size them up, they're fashioned designers, and they've come up with some of these. The first page has some Civil War era patterns in it, so if you wanted to take a look and see what some of the styles were, they are very, very authentic, and they're very easy to make. My blouse is a truly Victorian pattern. It's the Garibaldi blouse. You can see it with the drop shoulders. As you have drop shoulders, it's very authentic. And who else? You have drop shoulders. The blouse has drop shoulders. Carrie, right? Yeah. Now, you have, and the Victorians were very, very, you have drop shoulders. That's the look. Now, my mom always told me, throw your shoulders back. You're not supposed to look sloped shouldered. I don't know why they had that, but they considered it very, very attractive. My mom always said, put your shoulders back and stand straight up. But you have a very period detail. Her shoulders are piped. And your shoulders are piped. So whoever did your dresses did a tremendous job on those because it's the small details. The Victorians loved their details. In fact, when you get into the 1870s, this is very modest by Victorian standards. Their motto seemed to be, not less is more, but more is better. The more they could put on, the better it was. So they would put a belt, and they would put one row of trimmings. If I was a true Victorian, I'd probably have 3 more rows of plaid around here, and I'd have maybe a geometric design. They were very, very fond of details. Their ladies almost look like they were upholstered pieces of furniture. They put so much on. But I think for younger ladies, what you have is very, very appropriate. Because you're going to be doing your dancing. I think you look fabulous dancing. How long does it take to go through your heritage school? 5 days. 5 days? And you learned all that in 5 days? You guys are tremendous.
Some of it I picked up as with times went on, but a majority of it.
I think you've been singled out for something very special because they've entrusted you with learning the history of what has happened here in Fayetteville. And that is tremendously special because if you don't learn it and pass it on, who's going to know it and teach it when the rest of us are gone? When I said each one teach one, that is the motto of many a guild. Things were passed down verbally in medieval times before the written word was available to the common man. And that's what we're doing here today by showing people dancing in our dress, in our manners, in what we're eating, and how we're treating each other. And they've given you a special job, which is to reinterpret, reenact, and show people how things used to be. If any of you are going to become designers, teachers, parents, these are things you can pass on, and it's very important because otherwise it will be lost. And that's very significant because the reason my husband and I are here is because his great-grandfather was here. The courthouse that's across the street, it used to be a used car lot. But before that, it was his great-grandfather's house. And they tore it down to make a used car lot. And it's lost. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody passed on what the house looked like. There's one picture. They don't even know what the interior looked like. If somebody had told someone, we would know how it was then. So it's your job and your responsibility, and I hope fun for you to know how it was then. And we know we're really just a lot of adults that like to play dress up, aren't we? Yes, I know. We all like to play dress up. So if you have any questions, there's information for you. There's a free pattern in there. There are more resources. There's much more out there besides Vogue, Simplicity with Calls, and Butterick. There's past patterns. There's patterns of time. There's Truly Victorian is very good. We have resources. There are books. I know Dee Dee has this book. It is her Bible. I'm going to leave these out there for you to look at. They're after you. What did you do now?
I told her not to do that, but she persevered.
She did it anyway.
Mrs. LeRoy, where do you get the textiles that tells you which ones are all the fabric? Where could you purchase?
Where did I get that book?
Yes.
I got it online from a company called Sally Queen Publishing. Sally Queen is a friend of my teacher. Sally Queen is the woman who designed all the costumes or period dress for all of the people at historic Colonial Williamsburg. Do you guys know about Colonial Williamsburg? It's the city in Virginia that is made to look like exact colonial times. And they have people of the past there. She no longer works for them. She designs all of their costumes. Or period dress. Or reproduction clothing is another term we use. And those of you who know the American Girl dolls, I love them. Do you know Felicity? Sally designed all her clothes. So in Sally's house, there is the Felicity room. All her original sketches are framed, and they're in the wall, and they're in her guest room, and it's called the Felicity room. She's done tremendous amounts of research, and it's her publishing company. She did not write this book. But there's this for early Victorian clothing, there is one for colonial clothing, and there's one for the late Victorian and Edwardian periods, which brings you up into the Titanic era. I brought this one for you. There is an ISN number. You can order this. You can probably go on to Amazon.com, but I think you could actually go to Sally Queen Graphics. Just type that in, Google it. We're standing here in our period clothing talking about Googling things on the computer. Is that not a contrast in terms? But you're more than welcome to take a look at these. Yes. And then get an idea of what the fabrics are. I have also brought this for you ladies to look at. This has some clothing for younger ladies in it. In the front part is the Civil War era. And you can get an idea of how they decorated their clothing. That's clothing. Besides covering us at that time, was also an indicator of your position in society, right? The more elaborate your clothing, the more well off your family could consider to be, and you exhibited that in your clothing. It isn't something that you would just talk about, but you would they would know that you were a person of means or a lady of leisure by how you dressed. There are other people who are those of you who are a little bit more technically oriented. Is anybody here going to study fashion design? This is what we call our Bible. This is by a woman called Jean Honeysett. She passed away last year. She was a friend of my teacher. This is Patterns for Women's Dress, 1800 to 1909. There are many wonderful illustrations in here. There are grids for patterns, but you can take a look at these and see some of the illustrations, how you would change a sleeve. Because when I see you have a great variety of dress here, and I compliment you for that. Because sometimes you go to a period event and you see so many of the same dresses. Use your own taste. Do some research. Check out new ideas. Make your dress look like you. There's a lot of resources out there. I hope you find some in there. If you want to give those to your folks and say, if you ever want a new dress, there's some help. If you want to make yourself a petticoat, we have a free pattern. Is there anything else I can talk to you about? Any questions about costuming? The Costumers Guild West, I'll just tell you, there are costume guilds around the country. They all belong to a head group called the International Costumers Guild. You do not have to be a professional. You don't have to be in the movie industry. You just have to be interested in wearing costumes to join one of these groups. You can be interested in wearing them, making them, selling them, whatever. But they are very welcoming people. I've never met such a giving group as people who are interested in doing period clothing. They're just as likely to come up to you and say, "Oh, I like what you're wearing. Can I see how you did that?" And they will see that. They're interested in sharing the details. Oh, we're going to do the duel? Well, I'm going to say thank you all for your attention. I hope you learned something.
We're hoping she'll come back and teach us in our school.
She wants me to come back and do a petticoat seminar for you guys.
Well, you feel stiff. Now, how come you feel so stiff?
How do I feel so stiff? I made myself a Civil War corset.
She showed it for you. She's going to show it to you all.
This is the Simplicity pattern from Martha. I did show them my leg. My corset. I know. Wait a second. I also made a chemise. Do you know what those are?
Camera's off, isn't it?
I don't know. This is what they would wear next to their skin. They didn't have, although I'm wearing my top underwear, they didn't have the underwear we have nowadays. But, like I said, they didn't have dry cleaning. What are they about to say dirty and sweaty?
Time for the duel. Let's go. Get up. Here we go.
See, now she just didn't want me to show my underwear.
Let's go and watch the duel,
honey.
kitties.
Take
Do you
care.
want us to keep these for you?
Yes, super.
I'm going to keep them for you for your school.
I believe it's out of place.
Just going around here.
Isn't it great?
Hold these for all the girls. Take them up. Here we go.
We are about to engage in an affair of honor. Two of the men of Huey's battery are in conflict over a game of chance. Thank you. A game of chance. One said the other was cheating, and the other said the other one was a liar. The two antagonists will now come upon the field with their assistants. What you will see here will be the antagonists back to back. When I give the command, they will walk 10 paces. They will then turn and fire. The two participants are being accompanied by their assistants, the Less brothers, worthless and useless. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Please behave yourself. These gentlemen are from Huey's battery of the 8th Arkansas Field Artillery. They were drafted and moved along by circumstances that are completely beyond their understanding, but they're here anyway. On my command, you men will turn. Walk 10 paces. Begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Caught you, didn't I? In cheating. 10. Turn and fire. I ain't dead yet. Oh my goodness gracious.
You got one shot.
Yeah, I look better with a hat on. Okay. That's it.
You're down the short straight, huh?
I am too.
It worked.
The dance is going very well.
The honor guard and flags are coming.
Are we in a good place?
I think I need that thing. I bet I can talk loud enough you can hear me without this, but I won't. It's good to see all of you out on the lawn and the battlefield of the Battle of Fayetteville. At this time, I'm going to introduce Colonel Bill Lavoie, California, who had an ancestor, a great-great-grandfather, who lived in Fayetteville. He fought for the Confederacy, Erasmus Sturman. And Bill can tell you what's fixing to take place.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Beautiful day today, isn't it? It's actually California weather. I brought it with me. I visited here about a year ago and met Dee Dee. And my great-grandfather actually used to live right across the street from this house. And I came here to do some genealogy research and find out a little bit more about my great-grandfather. And when I found out how important he was to Fayetteville history, I felt that I needed to do something to honor his memory. And because I have his Civil War swords, these swords right here, I felt that the best way to honor his memory would be to present them to the Washington County Historical Society so that they could tell his story along with the story of all of the other men that fought in the Civil War. Whether they lived or died, we need to honor their memory and all that they sacrificed for this country. So I would like to, at this time, present these swords on permanent loan to the Washington County Historical Society so that they can display them and honor the memory of our ancestors. This is his battle sword that he took into battle. I present it. And this is his dress sword. No matter where he was encamped, he always, after getting his men squared away, he would always organize a dance with the local ladies. So he probably wore this sword to all of those dances. So this is his dress sword.
On behalf of the Washington County Historical Society, I want to thank you for being generous and for helping to continue the memory of your relative who was a prominent member of the Fayetteville community. Thank you so much for doing this to us.
While the soldiers are placing the sword in the exhibit case, which we will be able to see when we go through the house, I'm going to call forward the leader of Huey's Battery, Mr. Stephen Mueller, who will in a few moments conduct the commemoration.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chaplain Muller. I'm chaplain of Huey's Battery, 8th Arkansas Field Artillery. One of the things that we quite often overlook when we come to battlefields is that those who participated in those battles, whether they were from the South that we call the Confederacy, or whether they were from the North, which we call the Union, they were Americans. They were all Americans. There were some that were here from foreign countries, but they had accepted the United States as their country, and they were likewise Americans. This day, we are engaged again in a conflict with American troops on foreign soil. But at this battle, Americans were killed, North and South. They were members of the blue, they were members of the gray. We called them Yankees, we called them rebels, but they were all Americans. I now read the list of the fallen. From the Confederate dead, Carroll's 1st Arkansas Confederate Cavalry, Private William Hamilton, Private M.F. Hargis, Private Claiborne Hill, Private Brandon, 1st Sergeant A.P. Hogard, Private James Hobart, Private J.D. Lively. 1 man killed from Company A of Parsons' 12th Cavalry, name unknown. From Monroe's 1st Arkansas Cavalry, Private H. J. Jones, Private James Rowan, Private William Touchstone, Private J.D. Holcomb, Sergeant Andrew Pauley, Private G.H. Childress, Private A.W. Loretz, Private T.S. Brazil. From Palmer's Partisan Rangers, Private William Reynolds, Private John West. From General Cabell's staff, James Davis. From the Union, 1st Arkansas Cavalry, Private Reuben Burrows, Private Jonas Riddle, 1st Sergeant William Burrow, Private Lucian Amos, Private James D. Bell, Private Joseph Stewart. From the 1st Arkansas Union Infantry, Private Shadrach Cockrell, and Private James Shockley. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we look unto Thee this day, we ask, Father, that You would remember these who have fallen here, that You would comfort them and that You would clasp them to Your bosom. Father, we appreciate the sacrifice that they made, that we might have a country, a nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
I'd like for William Lavoie's wife, Karen Lavoie, to come forward to the front. Lavoie? Yes. She has been teaching the costume college to the young ladies from the Historical Society. They're all the way from California in her lovely costume that she has made herself. And we have a special tribute to this lovely couple who have come all the way from California. Our local barbershop quartet. Do you want to stand there and sing to them? Yes.
You're as welcome as the flowers in May. Glad you joined us on this joyful day, where good fellowship and song hold sway. You're as welcome as the flowers in May. You're as welcome as the flowers in May.
Do you want to send your I'd like to thank all of Huey's Battery, all of the other Civil War Roundtable soldiers, all the independent Roundtable soldiers that have come to help our commemoration of the Battle of Fayetteville, the 142nd one. There are so many people to thank. There is a lot of cobbler in the backyard at the Cook Fire by Philip Steele, who is one of our sponsors. The Barbershop Quartet, all the young ladies, thank you so much for coming. What we have next is at luncheon. As many beans as we have, we'd like to share them with you. And so in 10 minutes, the Neosho group will come inside in 10 minutes. Everyone else is invited to the cook stand in the back and have all we have. We want to send it away. We want you to eat and partake of it. Thank you so much for coming. There will still be dancing up until 1 o'clock. So are there any announcements? All right. Thank you again to the Lavoys, Bill and Karen Lavoy. If you haven't met them yet, you will want to shake their hand and thank them for bringing the swords of Raz Sturman. You will be able to view the swords actually now until 1 o'clock. But when it's time to eat, we need to get the Neosho group inside it in 10 minutes. All right? Thank you so much for coming.
My name is William Gist Lavoy. My great-grandfather was Erasmus Sturman, who fought in the Civil War at Pea Ridge and Corinth and other locations around here. After the war, he went to Kentucky and went to law school, became a lawyer, and came back here and practiced law. Because of ill health, he moved to Denver. He had 10 children. One of his children was named after his wife, Miriam Gist. She is the one that inherited the swords from Raz. Miriam in turn gave them to my mother. And my mother is still alive. She's 91 years of age. And she is the one that had the swords. And when I came here to visit Fayetteville and found out all the history about my great-grandfather, I felt that those swords would best be here instead of locked away someplace, so that people could understand the history of Fayetteville and one of its leading citizens.
Are you a reenactor, or are these clothes something?
I am not a reenactor, but what I did is, in order to present his swords, I felt that it would be appropriate for me to be in a Southern colonel's uniform. So I got the uniform so that when I presented the swords, I felt that I was honoring his memory by being a Southern colonel.
Oh, beauty. So what does it mean to you to have this kind of history?
It's amazing. I love knowing where my roots are from. I love the fact that it can be traced back. It's fascinating to find out how you got to where you were. And you really appreciate history more when you know that there is somebody in your family that actually partook in a lot of that history. It brings it more to life.
Did he pass any of that history along verbally or otherwise?
There is some of that history was passed along, and it was stories that I heard from my great aunt when I was a kid. And of course, when you're young, you don't really appreciate it, but as you get older and you start thinking about this stuff, and you remember these stories, it sort of puts the whole thing together. So an example of a story is finding out when I went to Lake City to do a little research on him, that as a fundraiser, he was mayor of Lake City, and he roller skated through town as a fundraiser.
What year was that, do you think?
Somewhere around 1880 or 1885.
Oh my.
So you pick up these pieces, and I have learned a lot of history about him by coming here to Fayetteville. Stuff that the family didn't know, and by coming here and seeing the area and where he lived and the things that he did, I found out that he was mayor of Fayetteville. I had no idea that he was mayor. I found out that he was a district attorney. I found out that he was offered a judgeship, and he turned it down because of those damn carpetbaggers. So it's just absolutely wonderful to learn all these little things about your ancestors.
Yes. So did he take part in the Battle of Fayetteville itself? Are you aware of that?
No, he did not take part in the Battle of Fayetteville, but he was, from what I can determine, he was at Oak Hill, I believe, is one of the battles. Pea Ridge, Corinth, and he was supposed to be at Vicksburg, but he took sick, and he was in Louisiana, but he lost most of his men in Vicksburg. He lost 50% of his men in Corinth, Mississippi. So you learn about the tragedy of the war also when you're looking into your ancestors' history, because look at all the men that he lost. And then he was involved in a lot of skirmishes around this area after he reformed his regiment after Vicksburg. And that's research that I still have to get into and determine where other little battlefields that he was in.
It's important for us to remember the Civil War.
Absolutely. Because it's our history. It's what happened with the feelings of states' rights in the early 1800s, and why we separated and why we're back together, but we still have our individual feelings in each one of the states. I think it's very important for our history. World War I is very important. All of the things that have happened to this country form the base of this country.
Excellent. Well, I sure appreciate your thoughts.
You want the cornbread?
Did you want cornbread, Mother?
Okay, I got just beans. Don't touch the bottom though when I give it to you. Just hold it like this.
I'll get you.
Don't you don't want to get it on yourself either. Okay, let's carry our stuff over.
You go sit down. I'll bring
Here
it to
and
you.
sit down
Sit down over there. Okay.
Is the meat and the beans? It's cornbread. I could have a napkin as far as that goes.
You got it?
Right there. Don't touch the bottom.
Okay, well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cornbread beans, girls? You want to go in front? Pardon? Do you want cornbread and beans? Or just cornbread? Or
I'm going to carry all my different things. How are you ladies doing today? Okay, let's go out there. We can go around this way, Olivia.
Just beans?
Yeah. Is there a knife you have to cut these?
And you?
No, with your hands.
All right.
Be careful.
Did you
sweetie,
want
the bottom is hot.
the biscuit with your cornbread?
No.
Okay, just beans.
Okay. Bottom's hot. Grab it. It's hot.
Y'all need anything?
I just have this on top of here so it doesn't blow away.
We're good. We're good. Be careful. Bottom's hot. Be careful. Real hot.
Cornbread beans?
Just biscuit beans.
Okay. Do you want me just to open it up or?
Oh, I'll just carry this.
Yeah, we don't have any plates.
Okay, yeah, just one biscuit.
Thank you, lady.
Be careful. The bottom is hot.
Say you'll be mine forever.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, I was raised on that music. My dad was married to A.S.
Okay, ready to start. Where you used to calling from?
All right.
Army partner. Right hand round. Left hand round. Both hands round, sorry. Tuxedo. Lead couple, sashay down. Oh my, they're walking and having an argument. Lead your jammer around. Okay, gentlemen, lead your ladies around. Okay, couple sashay back up. No sashay back up. The missus is going to lead the gentleman around. Oh, I think he's had enough. He's going to get those ladies to follow him. Oh, looks like they're going to make up. Okay, peel off. Partner, partner. Right hand round. Left hand round. Both hands round. Do-si-do. Lead couple, sashay
This is set up as Jonas Tebbett's law office, but originally his law office was here, and we can't quite figure out if this was the master bedroom or what it was, just right off the hallway. I don't know what it would have been. We know that was the parlor. But this is set up as his law office. I love this desk for more reasons than just the fact that it's old. But the CBS miniseries, The Blue and the Gray, was filmed. They came to Fayetteville. And this was the desk that Gregory Peck sat at as Abraham Lincoln and signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And one of our tour guides just thinks that Gregory Peck is the handsomest thing since shoe leather. So she loves this desk, and she'll, just, Gregory Peck sat here. But I call it our Hollywood desk because an actor actually sat here. And when you look at the upright secretary here, we don't know that it was the Tebbetts, but Hale Tebbetts, the oldest son, had written in a letter to someone saying, do we know whatever happened to our old upright secretary with the velvet in it? Because they left a lot of their things when they fled. And so this could have been, we like to think it could have been Hale Tebbetts' upright secretary desk because it has the velvet interior. Above the mantelpiece is a picture of Judge Jonas Tebbetts as he would have looked at about 60. This was painted by his grandson, Homer Tebbetts Gailey, and it is the original. It was restored when Lillian's granddaughter came. She brought that to us. And so that's a very important thing in this room. Again, like if you notice the symmetry, if there's a mantle on this side of the house, there's a mantle on the other side of the house. And the flag there is, again, we don't know if this was a flag of Tebbetts owned. I think it probably is a lot larger than what they owned. But it does have like 36 stars. It doesn't have 50 because it's an authentic flag from the era. And the only thing that I know of that actually belonged to the Tebbetts family was that tea set there, and it's inscribed with the silver tea in the tray, and that was the Tebbetts' monogram, and so that belonged to them, but unfortunately not while they lived here. That was their tea set when they lived in Kentucky. So it was theirs, but didn't necessarily belong to this house. Do you guys have any other questions about this?
Butter on yours. I hope you like it without butter. Want your strawberry jelly?
Mark to us, he said, you get shot or lose your leg. Every one of you will get a pension. Well, myself, I lost me leg, and all I got was a wooden peg. And by God, this is the truth to you I'll mention. And it's here now, boys, do take my advice. To America I'll not have you speak coming. For there's nothing here but war. And the murdering cannons roar. I wish I was back home in the old Ireland. I wish I was back home. Jumped up behind him and away they did ride, leaving her loved ones and her family. Led her over mountains and valleys so deep. Led her over mountains and valleys so deep. She began to fear him, and as she did William, sweet William, I'm afeard of your ways. William, sweet William, I'm afeard of your ways. I'm afraid you may lead my poor body astray. Pretty Polly, you've guessed about right. Pretty Polly, you've guessed about right. I've dug on your grave for the last night. They came to a clearing, and what did she spy? Came to a clearing, and what did she spy? A newly dug grave with the spade and cry. He stabbed her in her heart, and her life's blood did flow. Stabbed her in her heart, and her life's blood did flow. And then to the grave, pretty Polly did go. William, he traveled to a far distant land. William, he traveled to a far distant land. And the further he went, why, the faster he ran. And all he could hear was the sound of a dove. All he could hear was the sound of a dove. And all he could see was the face of his love. He ran back to the jail, and this he did say. Ran back to the jail, and this he did say. I've murdered pretty Polly, and I tried to get away.